Welcome back, everyone, to Shadows and Crimes, where we explore the dark corners of technology and the unsettling questions they raise. Today, we're going deep into the world of AI crime. I have to say, the research you sent over is some of the most disturbing stuff we've ever covered. Legal analyses, psychology papers, real-world cases. It's like a glimpse into a very unsettling future.
Yeah, the speed at which all of this is happening is really alarming. It wasn't long ago that deepfakes were just a quirky internet phenomenon, almost like a joke. Now they're being used for real crimes. We're talking financial fraud, election interference, even targeted harassment. It's like we've crossed the line and there's no going back.
I think a lot of people still see deepfakes as kind of a novelty, something funny you see on YouTube. But the potential for harm is very real. One of the sources you sent, Deepfake Evolution, from novelty to weapon, really drove that point home.
It's a chilling read. That source traced the whole thing back to these AI systems called GANs, generative adversarial networks. It's a pretty complex concept, but essentially.
Well, before we get too deep into the tech, could you maybe give us a simplified explanation of how GANs work? I think that would help our listeners understand the foundation of all this.
Sure. Imagine two artists in a constant battle. One is a master forger trying to create perfect copies, and the other is a detective trying to spot the fakes. As they compete, they both get better. The forger gets more skilled, and the detective's eye gets sharper. That's basically how GANs work, leading to these incredibly realistic deepfakes we see today.
So we've got these dueling AIs constantly improving each other's skills, generating these increasingly convincing fakes. How's that playing out in the real world? The source Deepfake Crimes, the rise of AI-powered deception, was packed with examples.
And it's not pretty. One of the early cases that really put deepfakes on the map was that UK energy firm scam. Remember that one?
Yeah, where the criminals used AI to clone the CEO's voice and trick an executive into wiring money to a fake supplier. Something like $250,000, right?
Exactly. The executive thought he was talking to the real CEO. Even the accent and everything was perfect. It shows how vulnerable we are to this kind of manipulation.
It's not just individuals being targeted either, right? The report mentioned a bank heist in Hong Kong, where deepfake video was used to authorize transactions.
That one was huge, like $35 million stolen. They basically used deepfake videos to impersonate clients. It's a whole new level of sophistication, and it's scary to think how easy it could become for criminals to target major institutions.
And it's not just about money either, right? The report also talked about the use of deepfakes for things like revenge porn and blackmail. Those cases are particularly disturbing.
Unfortunately, yeah. That's become more and more common. There were even cases mentioned involving celebrities, like Scarlett Johansson and Taylor Swift. It's incredibly invasive and harmful, another example of how this tech can be weaponized to cause real damage.
So we've got financial fraud, corporate espionage, blackmail, and the article even touched on things like deepfake job interviews used to infiltrate tech companies. It feels like the possibilities for abuse are endless. Is there any one trend that stands out to you as particularly alarming?
I think what worries me the most is how accessible this technology is becoming. The article highlighted how readily available these tools and software are, especially on the dark web. It's basically a DIY kit for creating deepfakes.
Yeah, that's a chilling thought. There was even a section about teenagers using deepfakes for bullying and harassment. It really feels like we're opening a Pandora's box here, unleashing something we can't control. And it seems like the use of AI in crime isn't just limited to deepfakes.
Absolutely. One of the sources even talked about drug cartels using deepfakes to manipulate security footage, create fake profiles, and even lure victims.
It's like something out of a dystopian sci-fi film.
And it gets worse. They're talking about the potential for AI-generated evidence being used in criminal cases. There was a case mentioned in China where a businessman's lawyer actually used deepfakes to try to challenge video evidence.
Wow, it's like the very idea of evidence is becoming unreliable.
Yeah.
This is all seriously unsettling stuff.
Yeah.
So the bad guys are getting more advanced, but what about the good guys? What are governments and tech companies doing to try to stop this tidal wave of AI-driven crime? That article, AI versus crime, the ethical battle, run into some of those efforts, right?
There are, but it's a constant uphill battle. Governments are starting to realize how serious this is, but keeping up with AI is like trying to catch a runaway train. The source mentioned that China, the EU, and the US, they're all scrambling to figure out how to handle AI crime.
China cracking down on AI crime, that's not what I expected. I always thought they were all in on things like facial recognition and all that surveillance tech.
Oh, they are, but they seem to be drawing a line when it comes to deepfakes being used for fake news and misinformation. They've actually banned that outright. And get this, they even require AI-generated content to be labeled so people know it's not real.
Huh, interesting. So surveillance is okay, but misinformation is a no-go.
Mm.
Makes sense, I guess, considering how destabilizing fake news could be in a country like China.
Right, social stability is a huge deal for them. The EU, though, they're going a different route with this thing called the AI Act. They're trying to classify AI systems based on how risky they are and put tougher rules on the high-risk ones.
So it's more proactive, trying to get ahead of the problem before it blows up.
It is, but even the EU is having trouble keeping pace with how quickly AI tech is evolving.
Hmm.
Then there's the US. They're kind of playing catch up at this point. The Federal Trade Commission is trying to tackle AI-powered scams, but they don't seem to have a clear strategy yet.
So it's a mixed bag globally. Some are taking it more seriously than others. What about the tech companies themselves? They're the ones building this stuff in the first place. Are they doing anything to help fight back?
They're trying, but it feels like a constant arms race, you know? As fast as criminals figure out new ways to use AI for bad stuff, companies like Google or Microsoft, even OpenAI, they're racing to build tools to detect and stop it.
So it's good AI versus bad AI. Sounds like we're living in a sci-fi movie.
Pretty much. We're talking deepfake detectors that analyze videos for signs of manipulation, watermarks, and do it in AI-generated content, even voice authentication systems that can tell if a voice is real or cloned.
That's impressive, but can't the criminals just find ways to get around these safeguards?
That's the big question, and it's a valid concern. As soon as someone figures out how to detect a deepfake, someone else is already working on making an even better fake. It's this never-ending cycle.
So what's the answer? Can we even win this fight?
It's going to be tough. The source did offer a few radical ideas, though. One was AI crime prediction. Think using AI to predict criminal behavior before it even happens.
That sounds a bit like Minority Report, doesn't it? Predicting crimes before they happen? I don't know, that seems ethically questionable, like a slippery slope.
Yeah, there are definitely some big ethical concerns with that, for sure. Another suggestion was focusing on biometric security that goes beyond faces and voices.
What do you mean?
Instead of using things like facial recognition or voice ID, which can be faked with deepfakes, we could use things that are harder to forge. Think unique biological markers like fingerprints, iris scans, even brainwave patterns. That would make it a lot tougher to impersonate someone.
That's some next level stuff. But wouldn't that be even worse if criminals could somehow steal or copy that data?
Oh, absolutely. That's why security would have to be incredibly tight. The last idea the article mentioned was setting up AI whistleblower networks. It's like using AI to fight AI, you know? These systems would basically infiltrate criminal networks, keep tabs on their activities, and then expose them.
So AI spies working for the good guys.
Pretty much. But that, of course, opens up a whole other can of worms when it comes to ethics. How much power do we want to give AI systems, especially when it comes to law enforcement?
Oh.
It's a tough question.
No easy answers there.
Yeah.
We need to fight AI crime, but we can't just throw our values and individual rights out the window. How do we even begin to balance those things?
That's the million-dollar question. AI versus crime argued that we desperately need some solid ethical guidelines for how AI is developed and used. It can't just be about technological advancement. It has to be aligned with human values. We don't want to end up in a world where everything we do is tracked and analyzed by AI, right?
Right. And speaking of which, the source also mentioned China's social credit system. That thing is straight up terrifying.
Yeah, that's a prime example of how AI can be misused. Using AI to constantly track people's behavior and then punish them for things some algorithm deems bad. That's a recipe for a dystopian nightmare, a slippery slope to an Orwellian society.
It is a chilling example. So
Yeah.
we've got the bad guys, the good guys, and this ethical tightrope walk we're trying to navigate. But what about the everyday person? What can we do to protect ourselves in this wild west of AI crime?
First and foremost, I think we need to get educated about AI. The more we understand how it works, the better equipped we'll be to spot potential dangers and make good choices.
So like not clicking on suspicious links, not giving out personal information too easily.
Exactly. We also need to be way more critical of the information we see online, especially with all these deepfakes floating around. Don't just believe everything you see or hear. Question your sources. Do your own research. Basic digital literacy is more important than ever.
It's almost like we all need to become digital detectives, constantly scrutinizing everything.
In a way, yeah. We can't just assume everything we see online is real. And we need to be way more careful about the information we share and who we trust.
This might sound like a weird question, but What about our own biases? Do they play a role in how we interact with AI?
That's actually a great question. It's something we don't often consider, but our own biases can absolutely influence how we interpret information, even when it's coming from an AI. We might dismiss information that challenges our beliefs, even if it's accurate. Or we might blindly accept information that confirms our biases, even if it's misleading.
So it's not just about AI being biased, but also about how our own biases interact with AI systems.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. AI can reflect and even amplify our existing biases, so we need to be very aware of that.
This has been really eye-opening. It feels like AI is changing everything so rapidly, and we're all just trying to figure out how to keep up.
It is a constantly evolving landscape, and there's no easy fix. But by talking about these issues, becoming more aware of the risks, and pushing for ethical development and regulation of AI, we can try to steer it in the right direction.
It sounds like we're just at the beginning of a much larger conversation about AI and how it's going to impact society.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation we all need to be a part of.
It feels like we're standing on the edge of something huge here. Like AI is about to completely reshape the world as we know it.
It's definitely a turning point, and it's not just the practical stuff like scams and surveillance we talked about. The psychological impact of AI-driven crime on society, that source really got into how all of this is messing with our minds, too.
Yeah, that whole section on AI-driven anxiety was pretty intense. Makes sense though, right? Things are changing so fast, it's only natural to feel a little freaked out by it all.
Oh, absolutely. That source made a really important point, though, that AI itself isn't the enemy. It's how we use it, the choices we make that will determine if it ultimately helps or hurts us.
But how do we deal with the trust issue? I mean, the source talked about how AI crime is making people doubt everything, banks, governments, even the tech they use every day.
It's a legitimate concern. I mean, think about it. When you can't even trust what you see or hear anymore because of deepfakes, it makes you question everything. No wonder people are becoming more paranoid and less trusting of the systems that are supposed to be there to protect us.
So how do we rebuild that trust? Where do we even begin?
It's going to take a collective effort. Governments need to step up and create clear rules and regulations around AI development and use, making sure it aligns with our values and doesn't infringe on our basic freedoms. And tech companies, they have to be more transparent and accountable for the systems they're building, making sure they're secure and guided by ethical principles.
And what about us, the everyday people caught in the crossfire? What could we do?
We've got to educate ourselves. The more we understand about AI, its potential, and its pitfalls, the better we'll be able to spot the risks and make good decisions about how we use it. We also need to become more critical thinkers,
Hmm.
especially online. Fact check what we see. Don't blindly accept everything as truth. It's basic media literacy, but it's more crucial now than ever.
So it's like we all need to become AI literate.
Exactly. Just like we teach kids about online safety today, we need to be teaching everyone, young and old, about AI safety, how these systems work, how to identify red flags, how to use AI responsibly. It's all part of navigating this new world.
The source also brought up how stressful it can be to live in a world that's increasingly driven by AI, especially with all the surveillance going on.
Yeah, that constant awareness that you might be watched or tracked by an AI system, it can be really unsettling. It erodes our sense of privacy and freedom.
And it's hard not to think about cases like how China is using AI to monitor the Uyghur Muslim minority. That's a terrifying example of how this technology can be used for oppression.
It's a chilling reminder that AI can absolutely be a tool of control, and it really underscores why ethical safeguards are so crucial. We have to make sure AI is used responsibly, that it respects human rights and freedoms, not undermines them.
So it's this constant balancing act, trying to harness the power of AI for good while trying to avoid the potential danger.
Exactly. And we need to be very thoughtful and deliberate about how we strike that balance. It requires open dialogue, diverse perspectives, and a real commitment to making sure human values guide AI development, not just blind technological progress.
So what's next? Where do we go from here? What does the future hold as AI continues to advance?
It's impossible to predict the future with certainty, but it's safe to say AI will probably become even more integrated into our lives. More automation, more personalized experiences, AI making decisions in fields like healthcare, finance, transportation. It's going to touch just about every aspect of our world.
The article painted a pretty bleak picture of a future where the line between human and AI-driven crime becomes even more blurred.
It's a sobering thought. AI systems hacking other AI systems, committing crimes without any human involvement, creating self-replicating criminal networks. It might sound like science fiction now, but it's a possibility we need to take seriously.
How do we even begin to prepare for that kind of future, where AI crime could be far more sophisticated and widespread than anything we've seen before?
We have to invest in research and education, push for ethical AI development, and encourage collaboration between governments, tech companies, and everyday people. But most importantly, we need to empower individuals with the knowledge and skills they need to navigate this rapidly changing landscape.
It feels like this goes beyond just learning some new tech skills. It's almost like we need a fundamental shift in how we think about AI and its place in society.
I completely agree. We can't afford to be complacent or in denial about the impact AI is having. This is a time for awareness, for active engagement, for taking proactive steps. The future of AI is being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
Well said. We've covered so much ground today, from deepfakes and the legal challenges to the psychological effects of AI crime and the ethical dilemmas we're facing. It's complex and rapidly changing, but it's a conversation we all need to be a part of.
This is just the beginning. As AI keeps advancing, we're going to encounter even more complex questions and challenges. But by staying informed, thinking critically, and advocating for ethical AI development, we can hopefully make sure this powerful technology is used to make our lives better, not put us all at risk.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into AI crime. We hope you found this exploration informative and thought-provoking. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe for more chilling explorations into the unknown. We'll see you next time on Shadows and Crimes.